Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be talking about the Pokemon Game Freak leaks, and we're not going to be reading the whole leak because obviously that's crazy amounts, but today we're on Kotaku. This is written by Kenneth Shepard. Thank you for the article. It's linked down below in the description if you would like to read along with me. Pokemon fans are losing it over this freaky Typhlosion story allegedly in the massive leaks. The starter was featured in the not-so-flattering piece of alleged Pokemon folklore. Now, just to put this out there, this isn't necessarily canon, I'm pretty sure. This is just leaks. This is just leaks about all documents. So this could be just drafts of stuff, but I have read some of the leaks, and most of it is just based off of human folklore, just inserting Pokemon into it as well. So it's not that crazy. Honestly, it's not that crazy from what some people are talking about. I feel like it's people who are reading this that don't know how scary or real Pokemon can be. Because if you read some of the official lore of Pokemon, it's messed up. Like messed up in like these are creatures, like these are animals, and I mean there's literally a ghost type. Like so some of the stuff is scary in a lot of ways. So I feel like it's some people not realizing how uh dark or are just real life like the Pokemon lore can go. But let's go with this. Across the 1025 Pokemon Game Freak has put out into the world, there are a handful that are cursed with some internet poisoned nonsense that makes them an instant meme. You can't have a Lopunny or Gardevoir in your team without drawing suspicious glances. That's true. Don't ask Vaporeon fans how they're doing these days. Now unlikely an addiction that has joined this infamous ranks. Typhlosion, you know, the fire weasel starter from Pokemon Gold and Silver. What could this guy possibly be ashamed of? Well, strap in, folks, because it's a doozy. It all began as a part of the Game Freak leak that occurred over the weekend, which included unused sprites of Pokemon throughout the years, details about upcoming games like Pokemon Legends Z and A, and information about the planned anime spin-offs and movies. However, those aren't the most infamous things to come out of this entire saga. Allegedly, these files also include lore documents that have had fans reeling. If these are real, none of these stories have been released to the public officially, so they shouldn't be considered canon, but like much real-world mythology and folklore, these stories have elements that are a little effed up if taken literally, rather than as the stuff of legend. So keep that in context in mind when I tell you that there's allegedly a story about Typhlosion impregnating a human woman. Yes. So these stories are about humans and Pokemon being together, sometimes not consensually, unfortunately. But there is a lot of stories about that. This is one story about it. I think it is, Slackoth and Vigoroth are in this one. This is the one about, if I remember correctly, Octillery. Yeah. Yeah, so these are all the leak stories. For the most part, it's not that it is weird. I feel like most of these are based on, if I remember correctly, from what I read before, a lot of these sounds slightly familiar. I feel like they're based on something. The mythological stories that have translated and are spreading around the internet are cover concepts like original sin in the Pokemon universe and the relationship between human and Pokemon. This includes stories about a person who has a relationship with an Octillery, another who is Vigoroth seemingly impregnated after killing baby Slackoths, and a story about a Typhlosion who disguised itself as a human man, kidnaps a girl, erases her memories of her past, and has a child with her. The Typhlosion story has been a breakout of these stories and set fans of Pokemon spiraling now that there are hundreds of memes and art of this situation. That is true. Now, these stories are kind of messed up in a lot of ways, but they kind of flow with the world of Pokemon, honestly. Not the games, but if you read the actual context of a lot of Pokemon, it really is kind of messed up in the world. And we are in, like, when the Pokemon games start, generally, it's like we are in the best version of the world because it's when it wasn't so crazy, generally. Now, to be fair, they are kids games, so it's not like they're going to be going into crazy dark stuff. But if you read some of the lore, it is kind of messed up. And in some of the extended content, like in the shows, the animes, the books, they do sometimes delve a little bit deeper into it. It's always still kid based generally, so it's never been super dark or like super graphic. But there's always been hints of implied actions, or like they'll never graphically detail something, but it is definitely implied some dark stuff happens in the Pokemon universe, which makes sense considering how there's so many Pokemon and they are animals, just like in the real world. So this is some of the arts that has gone by from the Twitter artists. It's been some pretty good memes, honestly, pretty good memes that I've seen. We're not going to play any of this because I'm pretty sure there's audios to some of them, but there have some pretty good things. I think my favorite one was this one. This one was very funny. This one was probably my favorite overall. Uh, yeah, there's some really good art in all of these. Um, but we'll continue on. What this article does continue. Now, from what I know, none of this is technically canon. Just like the article said, it's not fully canon in any way. So there are a lot of things that is a maybe this was just like a drafts of things they thought of that could be based off of stuff. Also, it's probably off of other things in probably Japanese folklore and stuff like that, because like folklore from humans are messed up in a lot of ways. So it's probably just adapting some of that into what could possibly be folklore for Pokemon as well. Uh, so that is definitely thing. This was also one of my favorite ones too. Like they're all joining in the that type of Pokemon club. This one was also very funny too. And yeah, the one with the ukulele, that is very funny. The problem is it's unclear at this time if these stories were actually on a Game Freak hard drive somewhere or if it was just someone taking advantage of all the chaos and spread of misinformation. That is true too. It's not confirmed that these are from Game Freak, but it's likely, but like it's very hard to confirm that it is there. If it's someone's just taking advantage of the chaos to spread misinformation, whether or not they're legitimate, they have undoubtedly condemned themselves on how people will talk about Typhlosion and other Pokemon, including in these tales. But assuming they are real, there seems to be some disconnect between the intentions behind stories like this and how the community is reacting to them. Some Pokemon fans are reading them as very literal and making claims about Game Freak's all-age franchising having hidden malevolence under the surface, but they all my problem like my thing about that is that it always has been like that. Like if you read some of the Pokemon, oh gosh, I can't remember the device now. The Pokedex. Some of the Pokedex entries of these Pokemon are messed up. Like if you think about it, um, and this is kind of I honestly I just don't believe this. Like it's the Pokemon devs could be like part of the furry community or Gooners as this post um says. Honestly, I don't really think so. Uh, but you know, it's also because like we don't know if it's actually from Game Freak or not, or if it's just someone spreading misinformation. But the Pokemon lore has always been like on that verge of being not for kids. Like some of the stuff is kind of like I don't know if that is appropriate for a game that claims to be for all ages. But the thing is it's hidden under Pokedex entries most of the time. So like most people aren't reading that stuff. If you open a book on Greek and Norse mythology, you'll find plenty of stories like this with hoes and pantheons. That is true, definitely. Such as when Loki got impregnated by a horse. Despite that undeniable similarity to real world myths, it hasn't stopped some folks from pearl clutching about these types of stories, as if they're somehow problematic or intend to be pornographic in nature. The pushback against that mindset is strong and swift. Yeah, this is not a like a porn thing. This is just mythology, which exists in all scenarios and in real life. In real like it's just like this author said, Greek and Norse mythology is messed up. Like even things like Christian mythology and some Christian stories and like all stories have messed up stories in them in all types of mythology, whether it be myths like mythology like the Greek gods, or I mean I guess myth is depending on your point of view, but you know what I mean. Yeah, and this guy's saying like and there's nothing I was about to say in this one, and this person is also pointing it out. I'm pretty sure this it sounds familiar from some Japanese folklore things that I've read before. So I'm pretty sure it sounds slightly familiar. So I think it is just slight adaptations of this already existing material, which isn't a bad thing. Um, and yeah, some people are obviously just taking it way too far, and it's just like, guys, it's just, first of all, we don't know if this is all what's it called? We don't know if it's canon or not, and even if it is canon, it's probably supposed to be legends, most likely, or things to scare children so they don't go too far away. You know, that type of stuff, which is what some legends are used nowadays. At least in our ancient times, definitely. Um, yeah, and this person also points out like no different than actual real life folklore and mythology that's been around for thousands of years. The only difference is this is a game that's supposed to be that is tated for or sold and marketed as for everyone and for all ages, which is why some people probably have a problem with this. But then again, Greek mythology is also taught at all ages sometimes. So yeah, it's yeah. Continuing on the article, ultimately, whether they're real or not is immaterial to some people at this point, as the joke has become prevalent that Pokemon fans will never be able to forget it. Typhlosion somehow got the worst of it, and if you're a longtime fan of Gen 2 Starter, I'm sorry for the nonsense you'll get for the rest of your life. I had the Hisuian variant in my Pokemon Legends Arceus party, so now I know I can never post a screenshot of that team again. It's true. I mean, Pokemon fans do take it too far a lot of times, but it's also going for the fact that Pokemon is one of the largest fandoms in existence. So like, you know, the fan base of Pokemon is so big that, you know, this type of stuff isn't new to Pokemon. But the problem is that especially with the newer games being so much more popular nowadays, is just that it's this stuff has happened before with Pokemon. It's just on a different scale, and it's never been canon. The fact that this might be canon, I think, is another big point, and the whole thing of it being Pokemon and like humans being with Pokemon, which has always, for some reason, made people feel really weird about it, um, because it's been a thing in Pokemon forever. Since the games have been released, the original Japanese versions had stuff like that in the translations and stuff like that in the original things that were taken out originally. So like Pokemon has been like this forever, and I don't see why it bothers people so much, because from all the things that I've read, it's just regular uh mythology and folklore just with Pokemon in it instead of the normal folklore stuff. Like it's very much the same. It's just Pokemon happen to be there instead of either humans or gods or whatever the mythology or folklore is, or demons or whatever. It's like it's just Pokemon instead of Pokemon being inserted into it. Other than that, which I feel like a lot of people are overreacting, but it's also, like I said, it's a very big fan base of Pokemon, and it's just like sometimes the Pokemon community that doesn't know that this stuff exists now knows it exists, and they could be either intrigued or disturbed or a bit of both. And I feel like a lot of people got disturbed by it, but this type of stuff has always existed in Pokemon. And Pokemon, in my opinion, has always teetered the line on for all ages, because once again, if you read some of those Pokedex entries, it gets really dark, and there's a lot of implied stuff that is really weird, especially just basically any of the ghost Pokemon Pokedex entries. I don't know about the newer games because I personally haven't played a Pokemon game in a while, but at least in like Gen 3, some of the Pokedex entries were kind of messed up. So it's interesting to see this type of stuff. But thank you all for watching today's video. If you like this video, like it. If you don't like it, that's fine. I understand. Dislike it if you like to. Comment down below on whether or not you have read the leaks and if you think it's canon or not, or if you agree with the type of mythology that it's creating. I think it's fine, but you know, it is also one of those things where it's a line that's for something that counts as all ages. Is, do you want to start talking about this type of stuff? And I understand that that is a very, it depends. It really depends on the type of stuff and how you're displaying that information. And getting it leaked is not good, first of all. So I really hope that, honestly, the best case scenario of this is just someone spreading misinformation and trying to get clicks, which they successfully did if it is true. But if you'd like to support me, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the like button, all that type of stuff. If you'd like to support me on other places, I have a Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, and a Instagram, TikTok, and a Patreon account if you'd like to support me directly or join YouTube memberships. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Goodbye, everyone.